Please wind your face down. Don't wind your face down. It's too much. I don't have much for you.
So what's happening?
They are doing it now. Can't you see that they have raised the window up?
All right. I don't know. I was asking if I could share my screen. I don't know if I have that.
Yes. Okay. Yes, you can.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. You can.
Do that now.
Don't put your seatbelt.
Hello, sir. Can you?
I think I was having a bit of a network challenge, but I've resolved that now.
Okay.
So please now. All right. Good evening again, everybody. And it's my honor and privilege to share or facilitate this session on protocol management and diplomatic etiquette. I'm trying to see if I can show my face. All right, yeah. So I was saying, let me see. All right. Trying to minimize this. Sorry. Just a second. Okay, back on the share. All right, so let's go straight ahead to it. What is protocol management? And by way of introduction, I work in development sector. I basically am currently into MSMEs development. But before now, I've had the privilege of serving in the military, right? So I served in the Nigerian Army for at least 17 years. And after that time, I've had the opportunity to work in the corporate sector, in the banking industry. After that, I have also been able to support enterprise development within a government agency. Now I am supporting enterprise development for a donor, specifically MasterCard Foundation. My work along this strata has sort of opened my eyes a lot into managing protocol. And even if all I did was be in the army, very, very sure that it will suffice me to even talk to you about this. So I'm speaking to you not as a theorist, but as somebody who has engaged with these conversations practically, right? So protocol is basically a system of rules and conventions that govern official ceremonies. I'm beginning with ceremonies because, of course, that's the first thing that comes to our mind. But of course, it also refers to relations, and relations means how you communicate your everyday business dealings with other parties. And the goal is that it ensures smooth, respectful, and effective interactions. So you can call it the code of conduct for formal engagements. Let's just summarize it that way and say protocol is basically the code of conduct for formal engagements. Every palace has a protocol. Every business has a protocol. Every home has a protocol. When I was growing up, I couldn't stay out of the house at 7. When I lived with my dad, that's a protocol. It means that within our house, if you are not in church or you traveled, there's no reason for you not to be home at 7. And that 7 is even a stretch. So we're looking at 6, 6:30. Now that's a protocol. In some other houses, it is not like that, right? So anything that is like a code of conduct that is generally accepted within a sphere or an organization can pass as a protocol. And it is a protocol because it only holds because two parties are involved. So when I moved to my own house, I could stay as long as I wanted. But every time I knew that I was visiting my family house, I knew that the protocol was you don't stay out 7. And even if that must happen, somebody must be aware of why you are staying out late. That is what we do. And the purpose is, 1, to prevent misunderstandings and unintended slights, to establish a clear order of precedence and respect, to facilitate communication and negotiation, to project an image of professionalism and competence. And, beyond formalities, you say that while rooted in diplomacy, protocol principles are highly applicable to executive business dealings. And thank God that this is an executive management class, especially in multicultural and international context. Now, if you see the picture on this slide, you see that somebody is extending a hand and the other person is bowing. Now, as you grow in your dealings on the international stage, the goal of protocol management is to avoid a scenario like this. Now, this person on the right is clearly a Japanese. The person on the left is actually from a South Asian country, which may be China. But you see, the Japanese don't shake hands because of hygiene. So before we even had the COVID scenario where people needed to start using hand wash and they say sanitizer and all of that, the Japanese were already at that level of hygiene. They don't shake hands. So they're not even going to catch coronavirus, if that was the way that coronavirus was transmitted. So what we're saying here is that this man, in his culture, is okay to shake hands, but in the Japanese man's culture, it's not okay to shake hands. So if you are going to have a transaction, 2 things are going to happen. Either the Japanese would study what the Chinese man does and shake hands with him when he comes to a meeting with him, or the Japanese man will say, for respect of the Chinese man will say, for respect of the Japanese culture, let's not shake hands, let's bow. So we're either adapting or compromising in protocol management or diplomacy. That's just the thing. You are either adapting or compromising. I'll say that again. As far as diplomacy goes, you are either compromising or adapting. Now, why does this matter? I already began to give you a template, and I said that as far as navigating the global landscape. Now, so in today's interconnected business world, management executives frequently engage with diverse cultures, governments, international partners. Let's even say there's this thing called gatekeeping. So I work on a project in southeastern Nigeria, and even if it wasn't southeastern Nigeria, anywhere in Nigeria that you'd have, or in the world that you are taking a project is you're doing a development project. And people are happy to listen to you, in a sense, because you are bringing change to their environment. However, you have to first show that you are respecting their their culture. So in the northern part of Nigeria, they are more conservative. So if you are United Nations or World Health Organizations and you are bringing vaccine, polio vaccine, if you have ever experienced this, you notice that the people who carry out these interventions, they are schooled in the culture. So if you are, they mostly use ladies because in the northern part of the country, they are very conservative. Their women are not allowed to freely engage in a sense with outsiders. So the best case scenario is that you send in women there. And even the women that you send have to be fully covered, because you are respecting their culture and saying to them, yeah, I'm bringing you change, but I'm not here to disrespect what you already know. Many people think that because they are bringing change at a level, they can just waltz in and out of a person's business. But no. So there are gatekeepers. When you come to an environment, you find out who is the Miangwa, who is the Oba, who is the Obi, who is the Eze in this area. And you go to see him, you speak to him, you bring gifts and present. And then when you bring a gift and present that, he accepts you, he opens his doors, then he brings all the other gatekeepers and tells them, oh, this person has come to us, this is what he's bringing, and this is why we need to open the door to him. Because if you had just appeared within their environment, one day I'm speaking to my staff and explaining to her, when I got to Aba, if you know Aba in southeastern Nigeria, you'd have heard of a place called Ariaria, where they make it all manner of leather works. Where I entered there, I was just perambulating. And because they noticed I was different, they just say, hey, come here, where are you? Where are you? And I had to run away, even though I had brought development. So the next time, what we had to do was to go speak to their leaders, the market actors, and say to them, we're here, this is what we're doing. They received us, called the executives, spoke to us, and then they allowed us to now freely speak to their people. This is what it means to understand protocol and why diplomatic ethics matter. It allows you to build trust and credibility. Again, it minimizes risks. When you understand, you apply protocol and ethics, you mitigate misunderstandings. So we had gone to Abia State. We're working with the Ministry of Industry and SMEs. We spoke to them. We're doing some work, but we needed to see the governor. And the commissioner was trying to help us facilitate that, but it looked like it was taking a while. Then somebody at the upper management echelon, the upper echelons of management, I meant to say, goes and talks to somebody that can get us a direct access to the governor. When the commissioner heard that, he was wrath, he was angry, because it looked like we had breached protocol. We had to look at also, somebody was going to take us to the governor. We told him, no, don't worry, let's go through the commissioner. We came back, apologized, brought a letter, requested, and he facilitated that. All of this is a way of minimizing risk because you try to venture into something you don't know because you have not paid attention or recourse to the people that were in that place that are gatekeepers. You are just going to go and have a crash in front. So again, what it does for you is that it projects professionalism. It demonstrates that you are sophisticated and you are not too proud. There's this whole thing about, they said, it's amazing how much can be achieved if we don't bother about who gets the credit. A number of times, people try to, everybody's looking for his name to be called for the win. But if you respect protocol, you will be showing that you are not insecure. You're not afraid for somebody else to take a win, What you're looking for is results. So it just shows that you're paying attention to detail. If you come to, there was a certain time, an elder that I respect was going to have an opportunity to see the Emir of Kano, the Emir of Zazzau, sorry. What he did, he started asking questions. What do you do when you get into an Emir's palace? What kind of gifts? They now said, get him. They mentioned a few things that we need to get for him, like turban, like a few things. And they said to us that when you get in there, don't offer him gifts. He doesn't receive. He's like a god. He's not supposed to take money from you. So what you do is when he grants you an audience, when he's finished speaking, drop your gifts on the floor and say, I brought this for the children. And it was like a master stroke for me because I had not thought about that. But it shows, imagine going in there and saying that the man would know that you have spoken to somebody before coming. I don't know if you understand. So now there are different kinds of protocol in executive management. I've gone to some government offices and I'm seeing the way they put the pictures of people in government. Now, protocol will teach you that there is rank and precedence. That means understanding hierarchical order in meetings, in sitting, in introductions. The first time I had an opportunity to go to speak to the executive governor of Kaduna State, it was almost as though I knew I would be prompted to speak because I was representing an agency, and even though I was there with the managing director, because of the role I was playing, I knew he was going to call me up. I just had that feeling. And so I started asking and say, what do you say when the governor calls you up to speak? And then I was told that, you greet and say, Your Excellency, the Executive Governor, all other protocols duly observed. Because now we're in a meeting room and people have been speaking before you. You don't want to start greeting from the top. But if you're the first person called up to greet, you're supposed to call all the people. You call the governor, you call the chief of staff, you call the members of cabinet, if you don't want to call them by names, depending on the size of the room. So understanding of protocol is to allow you first thing you must know is rank and precedence. Who comes first? Now, there are people, you're attending a meeting, you should know. In fact, from the time of the army, my time in the army, we know that there's a reviewing officer, for every parade. And nobody comes after the reviewing officer. Whoever you may be, the reviewing officer is the last person to be acknowledged, And so even in national parades, when you appear, when the governor appears, when the governor appears, they sing the national anthem. I think depending on the setting, if it's a military parade, they might sing the anthem halfway. Arise, O compatriot, back in the day, they sing it halfway and stop. The band just plays it halfway and stops. But if the president is in the place, you sing the national anthem to the completion. Now, is knowing who to sing Baraka de Zua for, the regular military anthem that you sing even when you go for need service or anything. There are anthems that the military has to welcome dignitaries, but there are sequences, and when the governor or the president or the revenue officer comes in, there is a special one that is played for him. All of this is what we call rank and precedence. Knowing who is who in the room and knowing how to acknowledge who is to be acknowledged first. Knowing what settings you're supposed to go from lowest to highest or from highest to lowest, like that. Now, of course, you don't even go from highest to lowest. You go always from lowest to highest. When you've called the highest person in the room, you don't get to call anyone else. And sometimes when the highest person in the room has given an address and spoken, you don't get to call anyone else. All of this is understanding rank and precedence. And for me, it's just like the biggest thing. That's why I'm taking all of the time. Now, there's also forms of address, using correct titles, salutations. For example, like I said, Your Excellency, Mr. President, Madam President, Doctor, Professor. I saw Professor Seth on this call. I don't get to his office and say, Mr. Seth. That's protocol. Sitting arrangement, formal dining in meeting room, in vehicles. Back in the army, that the driver sits in front. Next to the driver is the aide de camp or the ADC. You sit behind. You have not the aide de camp, the orderly, and then at the back, the aide de camp and the Oga Patapata, the senior officer. Now, the side of the vehicle that the senior officer sits is also a thing, and there are reasons for it. You have to understand it. You come out, you open the door. Who opens the door for who? What time? What side of the road do you stand? All of these things are protocols. Sitting arrangements in bilateral and multilateral settings. Who sits at the head of the table? There was a time I even learned that when you visit a person in his house, there's usually this 3-seater, there's the 2-seater. You don't take the 3-seater. It's assumed that the 3-seater is for the head of the household. All of these are protocols. Flag etiquette. There are your organization has a flag, then there is a Nigerian flag, and then there's supposed to be maybe a UN flag. Which one flies first? Which one is higher? Understanding that you can cause commotion by flying the flag wrongly. All of these things. What time of the day are you expected? In the army, you don't fly any flag past 6 p.m., and on weekends, you don't fly flags. There are times in certain dresses, you don't fly flags. All of these things are protocols, and they happen even in business. Just understanding these things. Gift giving. What's the appropriate gift? At what times? Like I just explained, visiting the emir. What times do you give the gift before you start greeting, or do you give it after? I remember listening to Dr. Miles Monroe many years ago, and you say you don't go to the Queen of England without a gift. You don't visit the Buckingham Palace without bringing a gift. That means you have to understand what type of gifts are appropriate and what passes as a bribe. So even understanding anti-bribery policies, in my organization, we're not allowed to take gifts. In some organizations, they're not allowed to take gifts that are above a certain threshold. When we visited the Bank of Industry manager in Abia State, we gave her a New Year gift, to thank her for the work we've been doing. She had to make sure that it was declared. She had a video cover because she couldn't take it because she perceived that the gift exceeded a certain threshold. And by threshold, I mean they could say 100,000 or 200,000 or any gift exceeding 1 million has to be declared. All of these are protocols. And when you understand it, you know what not to give and what to give. Event management, planning. When do you visit people officially? Who do you talk to when you want to meet them, when you went to meet the president or the governor? How do you go? Like I explained, conferences, receptions, and all of that. All of these are protocols. And I've explained, I'm not going to spend so much time here. The importance is that it helps you to build strong relationships. You avoid unintended offense. Some people crack jokes. There's this advert I saw. It was an advert done by Globacom many years ago, and it was the time they were advertising free tomorrow. And the advert was just supposed to be that whatever you use today on the Glo network, tomorrow you get it for free. You understand? And by the advert was just very beautiful. But one of the adverts had to be stopped because it was the advert of a young man going to a northerner who sells suya. I know several of us know suya. This is roasted meat by the wayside. He buys the suya and he asks for tasting, and the guy is just cutting for him. Give me this one, and the guy just keeps eating. Then the suya man asks for payment, and the guy says, I paid yesterday already. It's like, no, you're supposed to pay me. He said, no, you don't know that when you pay tomorrow, you don't pay today. And the suya seller just carried his knife and was going to cut off his head, And it's so beautiful because if you understand the northern culture and you understand the whole suya selling and buying, it looks very beautiful. But when it was being censored, people saw that it portrayed the northerner as a killer. It portrayed him as somebody that's very violent, and they had to take that advantage. So I'm just sharing that to say you understand, your understanding of protocol can avoid unintended offense. You don't want to go and you're saying all these Igbo people, they like money. All these Yoruba people, they are like this. All these other people, and you're in a formal setting and you're cracking jokes. No, protocol would not allow you to do that. Again, we've said that it projects professionalism. We've also said that it can facilitate international business. Smooth interaction across borders, reducing friction, enhances efficiency, and of course, we said before that it risks. So what are diplomatic ethics? And just say that diplomatic ethics are moral principles and standards that guide the conduct of individuals and organizations in their interactions, particularly in formal and international settings. It's about doing the right thing when representing an entity. The foundation is that it is built on principles of trust, transparency, fairness, and respect for sovereignty. Respect for sovereignty. I started giving those examples. When you're dealing with a country, what do they believe? What do they do? Today, we have a lot of footballers plying their trade in Saudi Arabia. It wasn't a popular destination because of the cultural tilt. It was the headquarters, the holy grail of Islam, Saudi Arabia. Now, because of international relations and the fact that sports business is big, Qatar was going to host the World Cup. They needed to show that they could accommodate a lot of people, so they started to at least compromise. Like I said, adaptation and compromise is the two things that you use in diplomacy. So themselves, they didn't compromise per se, but they decided to adapt to the fact that there are other cultures different from theirs. And we had a successful Qatar 2022. But even at that, when people were coming into the country, they were told clearly, we don't tolerate alcohol here. That's diplomatic ethic, because something you do in another country can spark an international war. Small things. We saw the video of President Trump and the man from Zelensky, the man from Ukraine, and how even though it was supposed to be a negotiation, it looked like a bullying, and people were angry. That's just understanding and respecting people. This was two presidents talking, but it took on a whole lot of Cold War effect. Now, while legal frameworks exist, yes, you are writing, there will be legal binding documents joining people, but diplomatic ethics extend to unwritten rules, conduct that uphold reputation and long-term relationships. That's why it's important. So we say, what are the core principles when you are dealing with diplomacy? Integrity and honesty. You are being truthful. You are becoming transparent. You avoid misrepresentation. You don't go and say that you can do something that you cannot. It's a diplomatic ethic, confidentiality. That means when sensitive information is learned in the course of your duty, you protect it with your life. You don't go and start revealing trade secrets. I'm facilitating a trade deal between a big manufacturer. Let me not say big manufacturer. Let me say somebody that has patent on a particular product, and she's saying that she wants to do some of this business with our cloth manufacturers in Aba, in Abia State, Nigeria. The first thing we have to do is confidentiality. That what we've seen in the room in the course of discussion, we're not just going to go and start replicating it without her permission. So diplomacy means that confidentiality must be held. Respect for sovereignty, and you acknowledge and respect the laws and customs of other nations. You don't come there and say, no, now please, this is not it's not a crime to drive one way. Meanwhile, you're in another person's country and they're saying, no, we don't behave like this. Fairness and impartiality. Professionalism, maintaining high standards of conduct and decorum. What are ethical dilemmas you can face? Conflict of interest. When personal interests clash with professional duties. Example, accepting gifts. So I'm leading like I've been saying, we're leading some development, and it means that we have to form cooperatives with our MSME clusters, and supervising these MSME clusters are what we call business development service providers. Now, at some point, our people, the business development service providers will say, how can I form these guys into cooperatives and I cannot partake? Because a cooperative is a paid investment, is a for money, is for profit. And we're saying no, because of conflict of interest. You're supposed to be supervising these people. You're supposed to be on the supervisory committee of the cooperative. Going to go and become a member sort of truncates what your superiority or your authority when it comes to supervision. So because of that, you cannot. It's the same thing that say, certain times in an organization, a husband and a wife cannot be employees because of conflict of interest. If a husband is supervising his wife, he will often give her a pass. The chances are that he may not be able to act neutrally in issues concerning her or him, as the case may be. So it can become an ethical dilemma when you are managing at an executive level. We're talking of bribery and corruption, offering or accepting undue advantages to influence decisions, confidentiality breaches, unauthorized disclosure of sensitive company, client, or partner information, cultural insensitivity. failing to adapt behavior or communication to respect local customs and values. You know, in the Southeast, they're sitting at home, and when this week came, our organization had to say, please, let's work from home. We are not in support, neither are we against what they are doing. But to avoid conflict of interest and to show that respect for theirs, when they say sit at home on Mondays, we sit at home. We don't go and open our offices and say, who are they? You understand? These things are what you call cultural sensitivity, misrepresentation. You provide inaccurate or misleading information to stakeholders. You take an unfair advantage of a weaker party. Somebody has come from another country trying to seek partnership with you, but because he doesn't understand the terrain, you say, this is time to bill him. This is a mug. Let's chop him. No, we don't do that. So I think we're almost at the end of my slides, but I decided to put a case study and a discussion prompt to just see if I can get some bit of conversation going. And I'll paint a scenario. Your company is negotiating a major contract in a new international market. During a social dinner, a key local government official offers a very expensive, unsolicited gift to your lead negotiator, stating, "This is a token of our friendship and appreciation for your visit." Accepting such gifts is common practice in this culture, but it violates your company's strict anti-bribery policy. Number one, how should the lead negotiator respond in the moment? 2, what immediate actions should be taken after the event? 3, how can the company navigate this cultural difference while upholding its ethical standards? 4, what long-term strategies can be put in place to prevent similar dilemmas? Does anybody want to take a shot?
Okay, let me comment here. I'm also referring out to all the participants. If you have a response to this question, you can go ahead, you can signify by raising up your head or mute yourself, and then contribute or give a shot to the case study, to the question.
Okay, Oluebube Emeku has raised her hand.
Okay.
All right. Oluebube, please go ahead and ask your question or answer. Sorry. Go ahead and give your contribution.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Amy Foglu, and I will respond to the case study actually. Now,
right.
the first thing to recognize is international environment, meaning there is already difference and there is already cultural differences. Meaning that according to the case study. So in his own culture, it's not wrong to give a gift of that magnitude. But in your own company policy, it violates your company ethics as regards the anti-bribery policy. So how should the lead negotiator respond in that moment? In that moment, I believe the lead negotiator should express gratitude first, express a certain level of acceptance, but also for clarity purposes, give a clear indication that this is beyond what I can accept. This is actually beyond what I can accept. And also report now what immediate action should be taken after the event. The immediate action that should be taken after the event is the individual, the businessman or the negotiator himself reporting immediately to his office. Look, this is the scenario that took place. I had to project acceptance so that it doesn't become a slight to him that I didn't accept his gift, while still projecting that this is actually beyond what I could accept. So I believe for communication purposes, for clear communication, the person should immediately report to his company on what has actually happened and his response towards that. So how can the company navigate cultural differences while upholding its ethical standard? The company can actually go back and look at how that particular policy affects people within that particular country where the business is being done. They can actually amend that policy. I believe policies should also be environmental sensitive. They should understand that because here this culture is different, there should be an element of the policy that tries to adapt. Remember what you state, what was stated in the beginning of the class. Diplomacy has to do with adaptation or compromise. So at that moment, there should be certain levels of compromise that in order to adapt, there should be both adaptation and compromise. So that's my belief. So what long-term strategies can be put in place to prevent similar dilemmas? That is also what I've expressed, that the company should make it policies to adapt to the culture as well as maintaining the integrity of the business as well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. You have spoken well. Ishmael, you have like 2 minutes to contribute so that we can also look at it.
All right. Thank you, the facilitator. Yeah. If in every organization or culture, there is a policy. Now, if you look at the case study, it stated clearly that unsolicited gifts. So if you are going to meet organization and the purpose is for a contract discussion, you must know the culture of that organization in which you are going to meet the people from and your culture. So if you go there and there's certain things like that sort pop up, you know how to respond. Now, the lead negotiator, if he understands his culture and that of the company they are negotiating with, must know and respond appropriately. He shouldn't do anything later on coming to defend it and say that our policy does not explain, or our policy does not, deny us from taking anything from those companies. Sometimes we do things and later try to say that, oh, I'm sorry. If you know what you are doing, if you understand your organizational culture, these things wouldn't have come up in any way. But sometimes these things come up for us to test our intention. Now, first, I will give you one example. In Ghana here, there is an American embassy. Now, in American embassy, the ambassador or any employee never gives or never accepts gifts from anybody. So when the ambassador is going to his close from her office or his office going to home, there is a camera. So that day she decided to give something to her driver because the person have helped her so much. So she decided to give her something. What did she do? She dropped the thing on the floor intentionally. Now, how are you going to pick it? Because there is camera fees around around in the office. How are you going to pick it? If you pick the thing, you have to give it to the owner. So how are you going to take it? So when the driver took it, the people, those who are monitoring the system, looking at it, that, oh, he should have given it back to the ambassador, but he couldn't. So he was called the later day or after the next morning, come and answer where he didn't give out the gift or what was falling on the ground. He didn't give what he took from there. He didn't give it back to the ambassador. You see, in this case, what are you going to say? So certain things we must understand where we are working and the culture or the environment in which we are working in, and then practice what they are saying. So in this thing, if I were to be the lead negotiator, it would be very difficult for me to say no or to say yes that this thing. But whoever go ahead and accept it will have a question to answer. You have a query for the person. Let us believe what we want, or let us defend our culture and say that this is what we want and this is what we want, nothing else. Thank you.
It's not on now.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kwame. I'm very excited to hear your views. I thank you also, Mr. Oluibube. That was brilliant contribution, and that's the truth. So at my organization, the first thing to say, yes, the company has its cultures, but the scenario did say, even though it was unsolicited, um, they said it was common practice in their culture. So yes, you didn't ask for it, you don't need it, but these guys think it is it is a way to show acceptance. Now, having said that, I like to tilt towards Mr. Emeka's contribution, where he said, you accept. So the lead negotiator is supposed to accept, show that you have received these guys, because the exchange of gifts is actually a token of saying you are welcome into our organization, we accept you, we are happy. So you receive it first, and then you can now return it and say, oh, but I'm going to be unable to keep this because too big. I think that we're here, our organization is giving you things for free, and our funders or our donors really frown on this. But just know that from the depths of our heart, we're very excited. In fact, we can snap with it, something. But I think that the scenario that is playing out should determine how the negotiator responds. Now, what immediate action should be taken is that, of course, he has responded and said, you report to your higher ups. Now, how can the company navigate these cultural differences? What I already explained when I alluded to a manager of a top bank that we were visiting. My intentions were clear. We just wanted to say thank you and a happy new year. But she said to us that she was definitely going to declare the gift. So declaring gifts can become a policy document that the organization imbibes so that staff are removed from cutting corners. I don't know if everyone understands. That's my thought. And then, of course, long-term strategies to be put in place is eventually come up with policies and says what can be accepted, what cannot be accepted. And even if you are not to keep it, you receive it and bring it to the company vault, so the company receives it. Or you can say, please, instead of giving to me, can you tag this in the name of my company? I've had to do that a lot of times where I go and I receive gifts on behalf, and the person is trying to give me, I'm saying, no, put the name of my company. So my company received this because I'm a staff. The only reason I'm sitting in this exalted position is because I'm representing the interest of someone. Now, that someone is the person that is supposed to get the recognition, not me. So conversations can be hard. Well, I think the summary of what we're trying to say is that there is no straight jacket to solving this. There is no hard and fast rule. It's all about what the company considers a policy. I hope I've stated that. Now, just to go forward, I think. So our key takeaways is that protocol is the framework. It provides structure for respectful and effective interactions, especially in diverse and formal settings. Ethics is the compass because now it guides moral decision making, ensuring integrity, fairness, and accountability. So the first time we talk about framework, the structure we're talking about, who sits first, how do you welcome guests? But whenever we go to ethics, I would say diplomatic ethics, we're saying morals that guides interactions in this sphere. So you're talking about integrity, fairness, accountability, confidentiality, and all whatnot. Interconnectedness. How do they join? We're saying protocol without ethics is mere formality. Ethics without proper protocol can lead to unintentional missteps. So you have ethics. Your ethics is that you don't take gifts. But the protocol should have allowed you to take gifts because you are respecting protocol, you respect the people's culture. So what is the strategic advantage here? Mastering both enhances reputation, builds stronger relationships, and facilitates successful executive leadership in a globalized world. And it's on these notes that I'd like to close my session and ask for questions if there are any. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, sir. This is quite educative, impactful, and we are grateful. We don't really have time to take a lot of questions this evening because we are also trying to meet up with another Zoom meeting. So I will suggest that for every participant who would like to ask their question, could just send it through a message to the class. You jot down your questions and send to the class, that is your facilitating class. Then we can forward that to our host, our guest, sorry, and then it will get to him, he will respond and we'll send it back to the facilitating class. If that is okay, we want to say thank you to every one of our participants. Thank you, sir, for your time. We really appreciate it. And I'm very, very sure that this has been impactful and everyone understands the values, the ethic, the dilemma, the definition of diplomatic ethics. And so I believe that we've learned so much and we'll put that in practice for those of us who want to take career in diplomatic ethics. Thank you so much, sir. We appreciate you. God bless you all. We'll be ending this meeting in a short while and we'll call it a day for today.
Thank you, everyone. Cheers.
Thank you.
You can unmute yourself and your greetings.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Enjoyed
Chairman
the lesson.
Aduloju
Thank
from
you, thank you, thank you.
Nigeria, Ondo State, Nigeria.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
have enjoyed the lesson.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you very much.
Thank
That's
you.
very
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Very much. We
Please,
appreciate.
we appreciate if you can get the audio or
Thank
material
you so much.
sent to us
It has
also.
been a wonderful lesson.
Thank
Very
you.
impactful.
Very
Thank you
Thank
so.
you,
very
but
much.
we appreciate
Thank you so much.
material.
Thank you.
If you can get
Appreciate it.
material and
Thank you.
either audio or hard copy material. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.